Welcome to practice today. I have placed a couple of blocks directly into the middle of my mat, simply an indication of how we will be starting today. Today we'll start in a seated position. So you can choose an easy pose, of course. You can choose to use a sitting support, perhaps a cushion, maybe a block, maybe two like myself. It doesn't really matter. So as long as you can sit with your spine nice and upright. If it is available, you might actually choose an easy pose, as I am currently attempting here. So your hands might come to rest somewhere quite comfortable. Give your shoulders a gentle shrug. Find a little bit more heaviness through your tailbone. And take any last little wiggles and movements. So if you now notice the easy pose is a bit ambitious, you can always bring your feet behind you, extend your legs out to the front, or whatever feels right. As you come into a seated position, allowing eyes to close if that feels right. Letting your next breath enter into the abdominal cavity and just letting your belly expand. Have a soft, slow exhalation through your nostrils. And you might repeat that for a few more breaths, just breathing down into the belly as you inhale. And maybe beginning to draw your belly actively inwards when you're exhaling. So just doing that, breathing in. Belly is expanding and breathing out as you draw your abdomen inwards. I'm just doing that. As you breathe in, it's expanding. As you breathe out, you're drawing your abdomen in. Letting each breath just flow in and out with that little muscular activation of your abdominals. Notice what it feels like when you're contracting your abdomen and squeezing the air basically out of you. If you enjoy that feeling when you're breathing out quite strongly and using your abdominal muscles, you could then choose to bring your awareness more towards this particular exhalation and maybe actively drawing your abdomen in and maybe a little bit quicker than you've done before. So when you breathe out, you're pulling in. In breath is gentle and out breath is drawing inwards. Allowing yourself to continue this breath pulling inwards as you're exhaling. If this feels right for you to forcefully exhale, you can speed up the pace of your breath. So when you are exhaling, it could look a little bit more like this. I'm overdoing it here, of course. I'm using a very strong breath. I would encourage you to try going just a little bit deeper if that feels right for you. And if all of this feels good for you, I am also now suggesting to use your arms together with this breathing technique. So you might, on your inhalation, reach your arms up high, opening your fingers, and when breathing out, pulling down, and of course with both hands. So breathing in, the belly is expanding. As you breathe out, the belly pulls back. You pull your fists in. Your pace, if you wish. You can go as slow or as fast as is suitable for you. Going for a few rounds of Bhastrika Pranayama. If your arms get easily tired, you can continue the technique without your arms. If not, please continue with the arms, pulling down as you make fists and expanding your fingers as you inhale and extend your arms. Just a few more. Then resting your arms and resting your breathing practice. Maybe closing the eyes and just breathing softly in and out of your nostrils. Acknowledging perhaps what this breathing practice did for you or how it might have changed your awareness. You might now choose to wrap your right hand around your left little finger, placing that into your hand and resting there. Ideally, you're now in a comfortable, upright, seated position, just holding onto your left little finger. Notice if anything arises when you touch this finger. I'm using the hold onto the little fingers today for encouraging the water element. The water element and our little fingers, respectively, are related to water and winter. So adjusting our bodies to the next season. If you are holding onto your left little finger, change that now and wrap the left hand around your right little finger and just simply loosely holding that. This little finger water element is all related to our sacral chakra as well. With that, it is about relationships as much as it is about joy that we can draw from loving, caring relationships. And please don't limit that to other people. There's a relationship that we have with ourselves too. As you release your little fingers, resting your hands just simply down in front of you. Perhaps your palms are facing up. Maybe your mind is still occupied with your little fingers. While you're taking your hands out in front, hooking up just your little fingers in front of you. As you gently pull on the little fingers, on your next out breath, pull a little bit more on the right-hand side, guiding yourself into a gentle twist. While you inhale, coming to center, and then drawing a little bit more on the other side and twisting again. And as you inhale, coming back to center, breathing out as you deliberately soften the shoulders. And taking an inhale to lift the arms over the head. Keeping the hook and pulling down on the right side as you come towards the side bend. We're still holding onto our little fingers here. Take a breath in, draw up, and then repeat. Keep arms around your head if that's possible, and pull down with the left-hand side, going back into your side bend. Take an inhale as you rise back up and an exhale to release the arms by the sides or lightly behind. Now, if you are in a seated position that needs you to bring your feet forward, please do. I will come into an easy pose now. And if you were sitting in an easy pose, I suggest to change the leg in front. Placing your fingertips down behind you and starting to raise the sternum on your chest. beginning to squeeze the space between the shoulder blades as you're puffing your chest forward. There's a choice here to keep your chin tucked in and looking forward while you're in this back bend. You could also push your chin out and then guiding the head backwards. Holding in your back bend as you breathe deeply in and out. And then releasing that as you soften your lower back and rise again into a seated position. You might now bring your feet out in front and lightly touch the soles of the feet together. You can bring the legs in as far as it's feeling right for you. And you might choose to take a hold here of your ankles or even embrace your toes. However, I would encourage you to stay seated upright and tall in this first round of the bound angle pose or Baddha Konasana. Releasing deliberately the knees into heaviness on each side. Maybe closing the eyes. If you need any support underneath your knees, you can put blocks there, cushionings, rolled up blankets. If you can sit upright and tall here and just let your knees become that tad bit heavier, staying there. Then slowly releasing your hands from your feet or ankles, bringing your hands back behind your body and lifting your knees up. Suggestion here to step the feet out in front at about hip distance. Or if you feel you would like to do an upward facing plank, you can extend both legs forward, bring them together, pointing your toes. The hands behind you are either flat on the floor with the fingers pointing forward, or you can be on fists with your thumbs pointing forward. As you come into a back bend, taking a breath in to lift your hips up. The same applies here. You can look forward towards your knees, or you can lift your chin up and guide the head all the way backwards. If you're in the upward facing plank, aiming to touch your toes to the floor, but what we have in common is that squeeze up of the hips. Take one more breath, and then aim to land most elegantly back onto your blocks or seated support. Wiggle your bottom back into place and reopen the knees. Soles of the feet might touch again. Now for this next one, I will lower down to one block. And the simple reason here is same hold, ankles or around your toes. Taking the inhale to feel the length in the spine. The exhale to drop the knees again into a heavy place. And then starting a gentle swaying movement that takes you forward. See if you can lead this with your chest rather than with your head for now. And just leaning forward here with a straight spine. Perhaps you notice there's extension happening. Maybe you feel that in the hip area. Just noticing how this feels. If you keep moving, that's fine too. If you find a hold here in a steady place, chest leading to a forward bend, hold here. The only thing we're not holding is our breath. And if it is for you at all, you can stay exactly here. You could now, on the next out breath, start to round your spine and let your head drop down towards your feet. There will likely be different sensations as now we're rounding the spine rather than reaching forward from the hips. Nevertheless, I hope you still feel a bit of hip stretch extension there. One more breath here. And then walking or lifting yourself back up. Taking your knees back up and placing the feet again onto the ground. This time, I would love us all to try a tabletop. So bringing hands back behind or fists, thumb or fingers pointing forward here. Feet now at hip distance apart. You might take your breath in and lift your hips up. Gaze is yours to choose. Perhaps lifting your right leg. And even placing ankle to thigh, letting knee drop outward and squeezing hips back up. Take a deep breath. Hold that and slowly lower your bottom back down as you might lift up onto your fingertips and guide your chest closer towards the leg. Keep a flexion here in your right foot. Figure 4 stretch seated. Releasing onto the hands and releasing your foot back down onto the mat. Readjusting your hands so you can lift up one more time. As you land on the feet, take a breath in to lift the hips. Option on this side, lifting left leg, ankle to thigh, and maybe pushing your hips up a bit. Head could be back here too. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, slowly lowering your hips onto your seated support, stepping up onto the fingers, actively flexing the left foot and reaching with your chest towards that left leg. Our figure 4 stretch on the other side. Releasing your left foot down, leaning again into the hands, lazy position, and letting your knees just gently sway from side to side. You can then choose to simply stand up from here in a squat, or take your legs out to the side and then come up into a standing position. As we come to stand here on the mat, walking towards a short front edge of the mat, I will show you a color there on the screen. Let's see how I can. Now the reflection is a little bit less. So it's the color auburn. And I thought I'd better show it so you get a rough idea. It's a very earthy color. I hope you can take this color into your mind and perhaps beginning to visualize this color. So coming to stand in your mountain pose, feet solid, arms by the sides, crown of the head reaching up. Your feet are firmly grounded into the earth. The knees are a tad bit soft and your pelvis is too, as if it was a bowl of water. You might choose to close your eyes or steady your gaze somewhere down in front so you feel less distracted. As you come to stand here, focus on your feet. Imagine that your feet are being magnetized to the earth and its rich colors. Imagine you place your feet onto the ground outside, taking some deeper breath in, allowing yourself to feel the energy and the healing power of the earth. Then visualize Auburn's rays moving through your body and into the earth. Feel how the rays ground you in the present moment. Enjoy the feeling of a connectedness. Breathe in the autumn rays and allow them to regenerate your body. Auburn in breath. As you keep visualizing this auburn rays enriching your experience, your being, you might ask, Great Spirit, whatever you believe in, to connect you to your infinite power and intelligence, to walk your true path of wisdom, peace, and joy. If your mind wanders throughout the practice, you can always return your awareness back to this color and inviting it through your body. As we stand, taking your hands out in front and hooking up your little fingers. If you like, you can do an awkward hook, so you've got a different grip on them. Letting your shoulders be relaxed, your stance still be solid. On your next out breath, pull on the left. Keep your hips looking forward, a gentle pull, a deeper twist, and maybe looking over your back shoulder. As you come back into the center and breathe out to draw a bit more on the right hand side, maybe looking over that shoulder. As you come back to the center, lifting the arms up on a breath in. Again, pulling on the left, leaving arms around the head as you go into a side bend. On the inhale, lifting back up. On the out breath, going into a side bend on the other side. Taking another breath in to lift this back up and releasing your arms by the sides of the body, returning again into a mountain shape. Lifting now the right knee up in front. Pointing the foot behind and stepping it out to the side. As you land the whole foot to the ground, bring a soft bend into your front knee. Drawing your feet a little bit in toward each other. Maybe lifting both arms up, finding a warrior one position. Let the shoulders be easy, palms face each other, or modify like I am currently. Finding the right place for your shoulders. As you take your next breath in, and with the breath out, drawing your hands down in front of your heart space. Taking an inhale here as you hook your little fingers up. An out breath to draw on the left side for a twist. Keep your foundation really strong here as you breathe in, come to center. And as you breathe out, going in a twist to the other side, your legs unchanged, knees still pointing in line with your toes. As you come back into the center here, perhaps lifting both arms back up as you take your next inhalation, returning to your warrior one shape. Gaze can be straight ahead or lightly lifted. Taking an inhale to bring the back heel off the mat. As you breathe out, release your arms and step back into a mountain shape. Go straight to the other side. On the inhalation, lifting the left knee. And then taking the foot a little bit out to the side as you point the toes to the ground. And then slowly landing the weight onto the foot while you bend into your front knee, drawing the feet a little bit inwards. If it's right for you, take an inhale and raise your arms up. finding a Virabhadrasana 1 or Warrior 1 position. The same here. The feet are drawing still inwards. You've got that solid and strong stance into the ground, supporting you. You might have this auburn color moving through your body, especially in this strong, grounded standing position. As you next bring your arms down and maybe find a little awkward hook for your little fingers, relaxing the arms. On the elbows now, drawing on the right side into a close twist. Your feet strongly grounded. As you inhale, find your center. And then on the out breath, you're very mindful that the front foot stays active and in place, leaving your knee pointing in line with your toes. And coming back into the center, you might choose to raise your arms again as you breathe in, letting shoulders soften and finding a strong and determined gazing point. On the breath in, raise the back heel. On the breath out, release your arms and stepping your feet again together there at the front. Despite the slightly cooler climate here around Melbourne currently, I will take my socks off for wider standing positions, and I can recommend you to do the same. Stepping your feet out wide now, finding the ground on the mat. Both feet are turned forward to begin with, but we will start with the right foot turning to the short side edge of the mat and the heel towards the other. A classic warrior two as you bend the front knee. With that, we're placing the knee over the ankle joint, but there's enough room for you to step out wider if you find you've got that within you today. In any case, the knee remains over the ankle, and with that, there's a very active foot there at the front. Both feet are drawing inwards. You might take your next inhale and raise both arms out at shoulder height, looking over the front hand fingertips. I would love you to draw yourself into the center, as if you could draw yourself into this very moment. Then only in this moment, there is the joy. It's not in the last posture, and it's not in your next, it's right here. So notice how your shoulders feeling. Are you drawing yourself strong within your center? Are you looking over the front hand fingertips, being fully present? What would happen if you turn both of your palms around, let them face upward? How does that feel in your shoulders? Does that change anything in the way you look at this hand? Your option, reverse or exalted warrior, as you raise your front arm and let the back hand gently rest onto the leg. Maybe you reach this arm all the way up and back. Take a mental note now of your legs. Do they feel the same? If they don't, what have you done? And can you rearrange yourself in the stance of a warrior two? Let's bend the back knee and let the arms roll in, swiveling your feet to face this long side of the mat. Take an inhale as you shrug your shoulders back and bend your knees, and an out breath to fold forward. Your hands can slide down the legs. You can have a block here in front if your arms feel a bit shorter. You could even widen your stance there, coming into Prasarita Padottanasana, wide-legged forward fold. The outer edges of your feet here remain parallel with each other and those of the mat. Where your hands are, you might place them underneath your shoulders. You might even lift the shoulders back into the shoulder sockets. Shift the weight a little forward on your feet and let your upper body surrender into the forward fold. Everything is falling forward other than your shoulders. The shoulders stay gently shrugged up into the shoulder socket. Allow yourself that weight sitting slightly forward within the feet, and take a couple more out breaths there to deepen. When you then inhale, come to your fingertips and lengthen your spine. You might turn your heels ever so slightly in so you can bend your knees with ease. And then breathing out to uncurl into a standing position. Lift the shoulders, shrug them gently down in your wide-legged stance. We will adjust the feet now so that the toes of the left foot are pointing to a short edge, and the heel of the right foot ever so slightly does the same on the other side. Bending into the left knee, and again placing the knee directly over the ankle joint. You can then adjust your stance, finding your ideal width between the feet. As you draw your feet a little bit inwards, getting into this very moment, centered over your legs. And maybe the next inhale raises your arms out to shoulder height and brings your gaze forward over the front hand fingertips. Staying aware of the way you're standing, especially in the front knee, and feeling that drawing inwards that lifts you upward. Maybe that collarbone comes back to mind. Noticing your stance, and perhaps turning the hands the other way so they're facing upward. Notice if you can feel or sense any difference there. Your choice to exalt the warrior, yet your foundation stays unchanged. It is just a movement of arms and a change in your upper body. Perhaps you are able to reach this arm far back and into a corner there. So you're working with the length in the front of your body. Then soften into your back knee. Let your arm roll back in and forward, and turn your toes back to face the long side of the mat. You might bring your arms behind your back, maybe even interlace the hands, draw them down the back and lift as you breathe in. Bend your knees, and when you're breathing out, starting a forward fold, a repetition here, but your arms might be different this time. You can leave your arms resting on your back, still shift the weight in the direction of the toes, shrug the shoulder blades down the spine, and a big maybe to lift your arms away from your back. There's different variations here of the hand position. You can have the palms open, as I have currently, or you could close the palms of the hands. It's a bit too intense for my shoulders, but maybe good for yours. Let your head hang down and stay for a couple more breaths right here in this position. Then let your hands release towards the mat. Swivel your right foot to the short side of the mat and walk your hands to either side of it. And then placing the other knee down to the ground, maybe even untucking the toes. You could now choose to lean a little bit forward into the lunge, or you could choose to create a bit of a rocking movement forward and back, which is my preference at this point. And you can choose what to do with the front foot there, especially when you're rocking back. You might find a place here where you can ground right where you are. Tucking your back toes under and lifting the knee off the mat. Landing the heel of the foot back onto the ground. Both arms on the inside of the front leg. We come into Trikonasana, or triangle pose from here. You might take your hands off the floor and start to open the left arm toward the ceiling as you rise. See if you can then extend fully from the feet through the spine. Your gaze is either down, or you might lightly Turn your gaze up and have a gentle chin tuck there. Bending into your front knee and lifting your arms back out, finding your warrior two, where we came from. Let's take a breath in, straighten the legs, lift both of the arms. A breath out as we release, bringing the feet forward, swiveling around from here as you land your other knee to the mat, untucking the toes. Maybe your hands are framing the front foot. Your choice, leaning forward into a kneeling lunge or rocking the kneeling lunge for a little while. Might lean forward and back. Feel free to guide yourself here using your breath. There's no right or wrong here. You can breathe in or out in both of them. Just finding the breathing pattern that supports your chosen movement. Holding perhaps in a lunge. Tucking back, toes under, lift the knee and ground the heel. You might bring both hands to the inside of the foot and perhaps even lift off the floor as your legs straighten. Your right arm might extend towards the ceiling as you're opening your arms out for your triangle. As you might notice, if you look at the screen, I'm modifying here. Please always feel free to adjust to your own needs. Feeling the length in the legs, the lift off the floor, the reach in the spine, the openness in your shoulders. When you next inhale, bend into the front knee and raise your arms back out, finding your warrior two. The feet now drawing inwards again, gazing point over front hand fingertips. Let's take a breath in, lifting the heel, and a breath out, just to step feet together. If you happen to find the short front edge of the mat, even better. As we come to stand here, just a short balance today, and tapping back into our tabletop, the one-legged one. So let's lift the right knee up on a breath in, flex the foot, ankle to your thigh, and maybe bending your standing leg. You can rest the hands down where that feels comfortable. Perhaps keeping that flexion here in the ankle joint and the foot, but maybe leaning your spine a little bit forward, maybe sinking a little bit more into the leg. It's okay if that looks more like a tree or anything else, as long as you're standing on one leg, you're balancing. I'll take a breath in to raise the arms up and the knee, and then a breath out to land it. While you land on this foot, shift the weight there, raising the left knee up on a breath in, flexing the foot, placing ankle to the thigh as the knee rolls out. Maintain that flexion in the foot. Your spine as long as you bend into the standing leg. Your hands might come to rest somewhere against the legs, just where it's comfortable. Some might go a little bit deeper, taking hands a bit lower. Keep your spine long though, rather than rounding. Still maintain in that chair pose-like position. The heart leading forward, the foot here in the flexion. And a lift as you lift your arms, the knee, and then landing here, taking a pause. And you might use this pause to touch your thumbs to your little fingers. Keep the shoulders gently back. Ground the feet, soften the knees. Pelvic bowl is in neutral. Crown of the head is reaching upward. Take another full deep breath in and out. And as you next inhale, you might reach both arms up. And then draw the hands down the midline with knees soft, folding forward. Uttanasana, standing forward then. And on the inhalation, lifting a little bit forward, extending your spine, half lift. On the out breath now, bringing your knees down onto the mat. We will change into a seated position. For this, I will fold up my blanket quite a lot. It's a bit lower than a block though. I will come to sit on the front edge of this folded blanket, and you might use a cushion there or rolling up the end of the mat, whichever is appropriate for you. Extending both legs out to the front. And while we might still need our feet in this weather, this is a good time to put some socks back onto your feet. Bending the right knee when you're ready and placing the foot to the inside of the leg. We will lift the straight sides, buttocks up, and pull the leg in a little. We'll start as usual with the bent knee and a flexion in the foot, but facing this leg. Press the fingertips into the mat now and lift a little bit more through your spine. And as you breathe out, start to lead your chest towards your knee. You might look a little bit different here, and that's okay. You could then choose to lower the head and maybe reach a little bit forward. As you stay here, I give you an extra option today, a slightly different hold. If that's all right, take your right hand and bring it to the outside of the foot or the leg, and using this hand to guide you deeper into your forward fold. That's all for now, just using the opposite hand to keep you attached to the extended leg. And this extended leg might extend further, but your foot stays in a flexion or toes up to the ceiling. As usual, find longer exhalations now, and maybe taking a hand behind the head and drawing the head down so that the forehead reaches towards the knee. This is a take from a fascia yoga move. Instead of pulling your head to your knee, you're actually pulling up into a rounded spine. So you're pressing the back of the head into the hand, and you're rounding or arching your spine away from the leg. Hold that tension for a little while. Deeply round it. And then release the hand and let everything just soften. And perhaps you reach a little bit deeper into this shape. Walking the hands back in as you rise to a seat. Maybe that leg is extended fully now, but keeping a flexion there. Bring the right hand fingertips behind the back of the other hand to the outside of the thigh or the knee, and take an exhale for a twist. You might look over your back shoulder. Inhale, turn your gaze to the front. Exhale, extending both legs and centering your torso. Bending the left knee and letting your knee roll out towards the side. Perhaps the sole of the foot touches somewhere to inner thigh. Get your fingertips onto the floor so you're able to lift your straight side up and pull that in, only to bend the knee quite significantly and flex the foot. Again, bring your fingertips into the floor to lift your spine as you inhale, and then start to fold with your chest leading towards the knee. Your gaze might be forward here, but you could start to lower your gaze lightly. As you come into this forward fold, I'll give you the same option there. You might lower your head lightly and take the opposite hand to the outside of the leg you're leaning towards, or perhaps the outside of the foot there. And then guide yourself a little bit deeper using that cross-body motion to guide you. Notice how that could potentially create different sensations in the side of the body too than your usual Janu Shirshasana or head to knee pose. If you feel comfortable with it, bring the right hand behind your head. Start to draw the head with a rounded spine towards the knee, and then press the back of the head into the hand arch away as deep as a rounded or cat back you can make, and hold that tension expanding into the whole back. There's a push into the hand, a push into the back. Hold for a little bit longer and then dissolve it and let your body relax over your stretch or extended leg. Walking the hands slowly back to a seat, and you might choose to extend the leg fully, maintaining the flexion there in the foot. Place your left hand fingertips behind. Perhaps it's the back of the hand to the outer thigh or knee, and then another twist as you turn. Allowing you to breathe in and out gently. And as your next inhale, turning the head forward again and releasing as you breathe out, extending the legs in front. You might choose to come off your folded blanket and perhaps preparing the blanket as a cushion for the head. You might like to keep a block by your side before we come to lie down on the backs. And as you extend yourself, making sure that you bring everything here around your mat that you require for your relaxation. So as you land here, take an inhale. And with the exhalation, starting to roll the spine down onto the mat. You can support yourself here with hands, maybe using more your inner strength there. As you come to lie down on the back, let your arms relax, but perhaps bending the knees and placing your feet down onto the ground. Let the right leg lift up, placing your ankle to the thigh again, and let the knee roll back out. Maybe create that flexion in the foot to engage the muscles supporting the knee. You might choose to just simply stay here, and you could choose to bring your hand against the knee and guide that towards an open space. Once that feels a tad bit better, you might let that arm relax back by your side. Start to squeeze your bottom up as you take your next breath in and find a one-legged bridge. Keep lifting your hips upward here. Leave your gaze upward. Maybe the palms of the hands even turn to the ceiling, so you get your shoulder blades a bit closer underneath the body. Then releasing your back slowly onto the mat and lifting the foot. And you might choose to reach through between the legs and take a hold of the back of the thigh, hugging the legs into that figure four, keeping still the flexion in the foot. But what you could do is a micro movement here, a subtle rocking that gets you out of the straightness of this pose and more into the exploration of the stretch in your glutes and the right side of the buttocks. To release, extending both legs up. Take a gentle hold behind the legs and perhaps even draw them a little bit in towards you. Then bending the knees into the chest for a little squeeze, and perhaps the nose rises up to the knees. Then lying back down onto the back and stepping both feet back down, a gentle hip distance apart, arms releasing by the sides. Extending the left leg up and then bending the knee to place ankle onto the thigh, flexing the foot already, letting your knee fall out, and perhaps using the hand to guide this knee into an open space. If you feel prepared, let your arm lower to the mat. Take a breath in and squeeze your bottom up for a one-legged bridge. As you hold here, maintain the flexion in the foot and really squeezing up there. The same option If you like to turn your palms up, snuggle the shoulder blades a bit closer, you could do so. As you slowly roll again onto your back, there's now the option of staying or lifting the foot off the floor and reaching your left arm between the legs. So you can take a hold behind the thigh, keeping your foot still in a flexion, but perhaps starting a gentle movement, rocking into interesting places, and maybe finding a place that feels tighter than the others. Perhaps you hold that space or you keep moving over it. Once again, extending both legs towards the ceiling. Maybe taking a hold behind and drawing both legs a little bit in towards your body. You might then bend your knees and hug both knees in. An option on the out was to lift your nose up towards the knees. Then releasing again onto the ground. Stepping your feet back down to about hip distance and lengthening the arms back down by the sides. We've done one-legged bridges. Let's do a full bridge. As you squeeze your bottom up, take a breath in and lift the hips. Holding here, and you might do the same once again. Slide your shoulder blades a bit under, turn the palms of the hands up a bit. Drawing the tailbone up towards the backs of the knees as you hold, or taking your block from the side and popping that one underneath the sacrum to hold a supported bridge. Your choice. Whether you're holding supported or not, keep the extension of the hips, and even on the block, that extra tilt of the tailbone just reaching towards the knees might benefit you here too. If you're on a block, lifting your hips back up, and then we'll all roll down ever so slowly, releasing the vertebrae back onto the mat. Let your feet wiggle out to mat distance. Let the knees fall in. Relax your hands where they feel comfortable. If you feel another movement is required, you might open your arms, separate the knees, and let the knees sway from side to side. What you might bring awareness to is dropping the opposite knee a bit further down towards the ground each time. It's not so important to me right now to open the leg, but to find an inward rotation. When you feel you're reasonably even on both sides, you can choose to keep the feet this way, drop the knees in and find a resting pose, letting your arms extend to either side away from the body. You could also bring your bolster under the knees or let your legs extend out and let the toes roll out towards the sides. You could then choose to close your eyes and finding your stillness and resting pose. As you land in Shavasana, and as we haven't been there today, take a note of the parts of your body touching the floor. Allowing to check in with the space around the rest of the body. The gentle touch of clothing or blankets. And lastly, feel into those parts of your skin that don't touch anything at all, such as potentially your face, your hands. And just notice that soft touch of the air. and then the air that you breathe in and out. If you feel it is appropriate, and please don't stress about this at all, you could touch your thumb to your little finger on either side. You might even just hold your little finger in place with your thumb to make it easier. If you don't find this works for you, perhaps bringing awareness to the little finger again. As you rest, you can choose to focus on little fingers, but also focus on the breath. Or you could choose to follow my words into a short meditation. In your mind's eye, you're sitting by the sea and observing the waves. They come toward you and roll back out and disappear. The same applies to your feelings, moods, and also to your relationships with others. Giving and receiving love is also subject to this law. Be aware that you are only receiving as much love as you can unconditionally give. This doesn't even have to mean great deeds. A friendly, warm heart for fellow human beings, animals, plants, water, air, and earth are entirely enough. Imagine someone, specifically or generally, happy, and encourage him or her if necessary. So seeing someone happy. Believe in this individual's abilities and good heart. Imagine entire scenes in which this person is cheerful and smiling happily. Imagine this very person cheerful and happily smiling in relation to a stranger. I can guarantee that you will experience, if you do so, wonders. If you keep this up for several days, spending a smile, gifting it to someone else. If you keep doing this, the time will come when your heart will overflow with joy. But the most important thing is, don't expect anything at all for the time being. Radiate your goodwill and your love unconditionally. Just have some patience until the seed sprouts. Perhaps creating a smile on your lips right now. Gifting yourself that lift of the corners of your mouth. Begin to deepen your breath. And as the breath starts to move your body, so might you feel inclined to bring movement back to the body. Fingers, toes, hands, feet. Maybe expanding the movements or stretching. And then changing your position to join me in a seated pose. If it feels right, you can touch the palms of your hands together in front of the heart. Maybe pressing your little fingers deliberately a bit closer together than the others. Resting all this in front of your heart center. Put a smile on. And we will share this smile with a light bow to each other. Namaste.